Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Unlimited webinar. My name is Niko Leppanen, and today I'm honored to be joined by two amazing people, Dr. Deacon and Natasha Swerdloff. And as many of you know, Deacon will be one of the speakers at the Unlimited 2015 conference in Helsinki. And we will talk a little bit about the conference towards the end of this webinar. And the reason why Natasha has joined us today for this webinar is that Dicken and Natasha will also co-present a workshop, a separate workshop in Helsinki on Monday, 14th of September, following the Unlimited conference. And in this webinar, Dicken and Natasha will touch upon some of the things that they plan to cover in the workshop. So people who are either already signed up to that event or may still be hanging in that undecided space, sort of contemplating whether they want to come to the workshop or not, for them to get an idea or a bit of a taster for what they can expect from the workshop. So without further ado, welcome Deacon and Natasha.
Thank you.
Hi, Nico. Thank you for the introduction. I know we're very excited that there's going to be a conference in Finland, and we appreciate all the work that you have done getting things ready for that. So that's coming up soon, so we're excited about being there and presenting.
Yeah, thank you, and thank you for coming there. I know for you it's a long journey. It's the longest journey from many of the speakers. So I personally really appreciate for you that you're coming there.
Well,
I was thinking, yeah.
And I'll be coming back in October. I'll be in Denmark and back in Finland again to do another training. So it's been exciting for me to see how this is spread throughout Europe and through the Scandinavian countries. It's very exciting. So it's good to feel like we can be part of that.
Yeah, yeah. So I was thinking before we kind of go into the topic for this webinar, I'd like to invite you to just introduce yourself and maybe say a few things about your background and especially maybe a few things about how you came across this understanding.
I think I'll go back to when I was teaching high school, and I was young, and so many students started coming up to me to talk to me about difficulties they were having in their relationships. And so I became very interested in learning what I could learn that I could share with people that would help them have a better quality life. And so I went back to school and continued to study anything I could that I thought might be helpful to share at that time with my students that would help them have an easier time in life. And then I went back and got my doctorate in counseling psychology, and right after that became licensed as a psychologist because that passion for helping people just kept growing stronger and stronger. And I had been practicing as a psychologist for 10 years, and I came across a man from Scotland who had a 9th grade education, who had a profound, you could call it an epiphany, a spiritual awakening, a realization of the nature of life. So here's this guy from Scotland, not even having anything to do with the field of psychology, who had had this profound experience. And when I listened to him talk, I gained a better understanding about well-being from listening to him than from all the studies and courses and books and materials that I had looked at and read and studied before that. And I became very excited. He helped make understandable the fundamental principles behind life and how that creates our experience moment to moment. And his contention was very simple. The more deeply you have insight into the nature of this, the healthier you become. And it's not a matter of hard work and effort and struggle, it's a matter of insight. And insight actually requires the opposite. When your mind is relaxed and open is when you're most likely to have insights. And if someone is pointing you directly toward the nature of the mind and how it's creating your experience moment to moment, and how that's true for everybody, as you have insight into that, you have less and less on your mind, and your natural capacity for well-being, to feel good and to think clearly and to think well and think creatively and access new thinking, arises naturally. It's hardwired and built into all of us. So this was the most exciting thing in my career that I had ever come across. It was simple, it was factual, it was scientific, or in alignment with deep scientific understanding. It was in alignment with deep spiritual teachings and their understanding of life. And it was something that could be taught to anybody. Well, that got my attention. I had never come across before anyone who claimed to have realized the most fundamental forces that create and govern every moment of human experience. And that these are universal, he called them principles, universal principles that anyone can learn about. So that's actually the foundation for the people who got interested in talking about what everyone will be talking about at the conference. Because this excitement is spreading through the world and it's helping people. There has been nothing more rewarding for me than to see people have their own insights into the nature of the mind, the nature of the spiritual nature of life and how it creates our psychological experience. And then watch them have more well-being. Watch them wake up to more enjoyment in life. Wake up to being more present. Wake up to having more confidence in dealing with the inevitable ups and downs that people experience in life. So that's what we're coming to Finland to talk about and to share with you. Yeah. And share our excitement about that with you.
We're very much looking forward to that. And then we have Natasha.
Yes, I came across this understanding only about 3.5 years ago, after having spent the past 20 years as a business consultant, being very interested in what it is that creates all of our experiences. I've always been interested in finding out what is it that makes some people communicate really well, when does it go wrong, what gets people stressed, what gets people in their heads. And so that interest has been mine for 25 years or so. And when I came across the principles, it felt like I found what I'd been looking for my whole life. I love the simplicity of understanding what is most fundamental. I love that it's true for everyone. It goes across personality types, what kind of culture you come from, what country you're born in, what kind of education you have. It's what's true for all of us. And I love that. I love that it's people are able to find themselves in this understanding by seeing that it's true for themselves and for everyone around them. So I just love that simplicity. So my passion is now to go into businesses and teach this, because I can see that there's a lot of benefits to understanding how the mind works. Just being able to communicate better, not being so caught up in the ups and downs, as Dicken just mentioned. Knowing that our emotions are like the weather. Sometimes it rains and sometimes the sun comes out. And being able to just be much better and go through those times more gracefully. It's something that I really enjoy and I'm passionate about. And I see the benefits in businesses. I see them access more of their own wisdom that's innate in all of us. I see them being more at ease. I see stress go down. I see people just feeling more comfortable with what they do, no matter what it is. Maybe they hated their job before and now they're doing it and they are just more comfortable doing it. They might change at some point, but I just see more ease. And I also find that people understand this very easily. It makes sense on an intuitive level. So that's a little bit about me.
Yeah, thank you. So kind of like for each of the webinar, we usually come up with some kind of theme, and I asked Natasha last week that, yeah, what do you want to talk about with Deacon, and she said, how about celebrating being human? And she also mentioned that that's something that they are both passionate about, like that topic. So what I'm going to do now is just let you elaborate on that and kind of like take it where you want to take it. And I encourage people to just people who are listening to this, watching this, to just tune in into it and listen to Deacon and Natasha for however long they go. And also one thing that we want to encourage is if you have any questions, please type them in using the chat box, and we will leave some time at the end for questions.
Yes.
Yeah, we enjoy hearing from you. So if you do have questions, feel free to ask them. So we want to talk a little bit about celebrating being human. You know, so much of what people see in the news is the opposite. It's not celebrating being human. It's pointing toward how things often look when people are at their worst and having great difficulty, and so it's good for any of us to learn something that helps us to be able to celebrate the fact that we get to live this life that we're living. So I started thinking about, well, what does it mean to celebrate? Well, when you celebrate, you're enjoying something. When you celebrate, you're grateful for something. When you celebrate, you feel very connected to the other people who are part of that party that you're in celebrating. And I know that when I learned about these three principles that I want to talk about briefly right now, when I learned about these three principles, I had never found anything that helped me to enjoy life more, to be more grateful, to be more comfortable in my own skin, to discover the way in which all of us are connected. So that's what we decided we'd talk about. Natasha, you want to say a few things to get started? Because you came up with this great title. I love that.
Yeah. Just for those who don't know, Dicken and I are currently collaborating on writing a book together. And this is one of the topics that we have in the books that we're both excited about, and we love chatting about it. So I thought that would be a natural place to start. To me, understanding the principles help us celebrate that we're human beings. It's this incredible dance that's going on all of the time between nothing, something arising from nothing. We all were not here at some point, and everything that we see around us has come into existence. So there's this constant dance and celebration going on from there being nothing to being something. And the human part is very much about the world of form. It's everything we see around us. And it's also our thoughts and emotions. They arise, and then they pass away. So everything that arises, everything we can see around us at some point will also disappear. And what's really interesting, and what one of the themes for our book is, what is it that doesn't disappear? What is it that's constant? What is it that's essentially you? And the more you connect to that, and for me that's really what the principles has helped me see, is the more you connect to your essential nature, the less you care about your weather, the less you care about what thoughts and feelings arise in the moment, because you understand that they will arise and then they'll pass away. It might take a minute, it might take 10 minutes or 3 hours, but every thought and emotion that occurs or arises in you will pass at some point. So there's this constance of dancing of in and out of things arising and passing away, and really to just notice what's always constant. The Tao Te Ching says that the Tao does nothing and leaves nothing undone. I love that. So this it's also like there's a field of silence, and then suddenly a musical note will appear, and then another, and then another, and then soon you have a beautiful piece of music. So there's this constance of out of nothing, everything comes. So that's the inspiration that we both have and love to talk about.
It's good news to realize that we're part of the whole. It's good news to realize that we're connected to the energy of life. Now, the reason why that's good news is that the energy of life is what knows how to create everything that exists and then operate it. So if that's true, and we would like you to consider this with us, if it's true that we are connected to the energy of life, that everything comes from that energy and is created from that energy and is even made up of that energy, right? That's what the quantum physicists are saying, is that all of life is just a bundle of energy, whether in form or formless. It's still the same energy dancing around and taking form. So if it's true that we're connected to the energy of life and that there's an intelligence built into this energy that knows how to create, that knows how to create our bodies. Boy, I was just with a family that had a new baby, and just the miracle of something being created. And the beauty of that, and not only is it created, but this little baby is fully aware of life, so it can see and hear and feel and taste and touch. So it's built into the baby to be aware of life. Right? So the three principles that Sid Banks talked about are really just three different ways of talking about this energy of life that is creating our experience moment to moment, is creating everything that exists moment to moment. And he called those three principles universal mind, which is the source and intelligence behind all of life; universal consciousness, which is the built-in capacity for awareness, that this is an aware field of energy, so that anything created in that field has the already built into it the capacity for awareness. Okay? And you can think of that energy as a creative force that knows how to create everything, and so that's called the principle of thought. So on a very practical level, it says that everything we are experiencing is being created from this energy. Everything we're experiencing, whether we're happy or whether we're sad or whether we're feeling confused or whether we're excited, it's being created from this energy that has the power to create, this creative energy. Now, that's true on a spiritual level, that's true on a scientific level, that's now being shown to be true on a psychological level, that our experience is created in each moment via thought. So that if a sad thought is created in you, you will experience sadness. If a loving thought is created in you, you will experience love. Now, as simple as that is, when you step way back from it, saying that every single experience and feeling that you're having is being created from this creative energy, when you step back from it, that's the only way it's ever worked, that's the only way it ever is working, and yet there is enormous confusion about this. It's rare the human being I have met that if you ask them, what are you feeling and where do you think it comes from, that they say, oh, it's being created from the energy of life in this moment. They'll say, I'm feeling stressed because of my work. I'm feeling happy because of what this person just said to me. All right? I'm feeling sad because of what just happened. I'm feeling guilty about something I did. All right? So that because this fundamental scientific understanding about how life is created has not been generally well known by the public, it has led to centuries of confusion about human experience, so that people grow up believing that their experiences and feelings are being caused by things outside of their control, outside of them, and that they're just sort of the passive victim of life. Right? So that when I started learning about these principles, I started seeing that my worry did not come from my problems. It was being created from how I was thinking. And that the beautiful, loving feelings I had toward my wife were not coming from her. They were coming through me into the world as my experience. Right? So later on we can talk a little bit about how understanding this fundamental nature in which human experience is created helps you begin to celebrate your life more.
It's an innocent misunderstanding that most of us have had, because when we come into this life as babies, the first thing that's conscious in us is our sensations. Personal thinking hasn't really started yet. There's just sensation, and the first two sensations that we notice is this pleasant or is it unpleasant? And so we start to, in the first months of our lives, we start to look for what's pleasant, what's unpleasant, and it could seem as if it's something that comes from the outside. maybe my stomach is hurting and I cry, and my parents come and help me in some way, and I feel good again. And so I start to think that all things good comes from my parents, and all things bad come also from the outside. So it's in the first months, that's all we have is sensation, and then quickly we begin to start noticing, well, how do I get more of this pleasurable feeling? And it becomes almost a theme to start looking for things from the outside that can give me pleasure, which then of course goes into all kinds of directions. But what happens is that we begin to misunderstand what is creating our experience, because it looks as if it's coming from the outside. It looks as if when the sun comes out, I'm happy. It looks as if when I have an ice cream and walk in the forest with my husband, everything is great. Or when I'm sad, it's because somebody did something or the traffic's bumming me out. It really looks that way when you look at the world of form. But when we identify with that, we start to suffer, because then I become the victim of things around me. So one of the amazing things and great hopes for me in starting to realize these principles is to see that everything is in fact created from the inside out, never from anywhere else. It's not possible. It's just not how the mind works. So there's so much hope in seeing that everything that arises in me is coming from something that is formless. It is the bridge from the psychological to the spiritual. Something is arising in me, and it's coming from something that's completely formless. It's spiritual. So it's a innocent misunderstanding, and it's so beautiful to be witness to, as Dicken and I are every day in our work, to be witness to people waking up to seeing how thought, their personal thinking, is creating all of their experiences from moment to moment. And as people start to realize this and to see the enormous creative potential that lies in thought, that suddenly they get opportunities to feel free, and also to, as I mentioned earlier, to go through the ups and downs of life that life inevitably brings us, but to go through those times more gracefully by seeing that I have internal weather. It's sometimes I'm just bummed out. There's no explanation, but I know, and I have enormous trust that it will move away, and the sun will come out, the clouds will part, and I will feel good again. And I don't need to do anything. It happens naturally. It's innate. It's in every one of us. So I love the hope of that.
The more you begin, the more anyone begins to realize that they are being lived from the inside out, the less and less thinking you will have on your mind. Because from working with people for all these years, most of what people are thinking about has to do with things that are outside of themselves that they think are somehow having an influence or effect on their life. And so our lives become very personalized. And the more personalized our lives become, the more thinking we do. Now, here's the deal. When we have less on our mind, we naturally and automatically start to feel better and think better. And yet it's very interesting that when most adults are having difficulty, without understanding the nature of the mind, when someone is having difficulty, it's my observation that most people start thinking even harder about what's going on. And so they fill their minds up with even more and more thought content. And all of that thought content is creating a feeling. So you're feeling bad and you start thinking about it, and the more you think about it, the worse you feel and the more confused you get. No, you can't, no one can think their way to well-being, because well-being arises naturally when people's heads clear. So isn't it interesting that without understanding how this works, when people have difficulty, innocently, they start thinking in a way that makes them feel worse, or it perpetuates their worry or their upset or their tension or their confusion or their uncertainty, and they try and think their way out of that problem. And so as people realize the principles more deeply, it's my observation that people start letting go of more and more of the personal thinking that they're doing, and they begin to discover the beauty and benefits of a quiet mind. Because in a quiet mind, our mind is wide open and receptive to this creative nature, this creative force that then creates something new and fresh and helpful and alive within us. Right? That this deeper intelligence knows what it's doing. It knows how to take us in a direction where we can thrive. So in the sense, when our egos get out of the way, everybody that I've ever seen and met, as their ego and personal thinking falls away, a couple of things happen. They naturally fall back into what people have called the present moment or the now. And in that wide openness, this deeper intelligence knows then how to create something that will help us in that moment move forward in a way that's healthy. Right? So the deeper people realize the nature of life, the more they wake up out of thinking that's not helpful and useful, the more they fall into the present moment and now. And then the more heart shows up, the more love and understanding begins to arise within them, the more enjoyment. Now, I didn't know that's how it worked, and I had been practicing for 10 years as a psychologist, and I had all these theories and ideas on how people worked, and it was all very complicated, and it took a lot of effort and hard work to work on yourself. And basically I was asking people to think about experiences they had already had and to focus on the unpleasant ones usually and talk about them. And the more you think about and talk about something unpleasant, the worse you feel, because whatever you think, you're going to feel. Right? So after I learned these principles, I did the opposite. I was not interested in pointing people in the direction where they focused on something unpleasant and gave more thought to it. I wanted people to discover for themselves that when you realize that it's thought creating your experience, most of the thinking you're doing is not particularly helpful, and it begins to fall away, or you begin to let go of it. And in the beauty of that moment, it throws you back into the present moment. And when any human being is fully open and present, they're able to receive thinking that allows them to feel better and to think better. It's that simple. Right? So that then you can begin to celebrate the beauty of how human beings operate and how we work and how we all have access to well-being because it's built into us. It's not even something you can work on. It's something that reveals itself to us when our minds fall open. Right? So the question then becomes, what can we learn that allows us to fall out of the thinking we're doing that keeps us from experiencing our well-being? Right? So that's what we're going to help people with. That's what we want to talk about. And so that people coming to this conference will hear from a lot of different people talking in their own way about this same phenomenon, about how we all are lived and operated by these same three principles.
Yes, we really want to invite everyone to sense that there is something inside of you that doesn't come and go. To realize that the thoughts and feelings come and go, and as Dicken says, when you relax into or fall into this space of pure consciousness, what arises is something that will help you thrive. And the more you can notice that there's something inside of you that's always been present through everything you've experienced in life, through all of your ups and downs, through all of your feelings and thoughts, all of your life, they've passed, but there's something inside of you that's always been there. And so we really want to invite you to connect more and more to this essential or true you, because the more you do that, the more you can have access to this wisdom and love and connection that's always there. It never goes away. There's a silence, there's this constant backdrop to our consciousness, and it's always there. And as soon as you start touching this space and become more and more familiar with it, the more you also build up a trust inside of yourself that you'll be able to go to this space and let your thoughts relax, fall down, and then from that something will arise, something beautiful, something that will, and it can be a new idea for a business venture, or how to deal with a problem you have in your personal life. But the more you touch this space and become familiar with it, the more you just are able to let yourself be moved in a way that will allow you to connect with well-being and to make you thrive in ways that you couldn't think yourself to. So there's this paradox that, as Dicken mentioned before, that most of us, when we have problems, we start to think about it. And even learning these principles, I know this is true for me, I was thinking about it a whole lot, and the understanding doesn't really come from thinking about it. It's more an intuiting that there's something inside of you that's always present. There's a silence that's always there. And the more you touch this space, the more you realize that we are all connected to the same intelligence, the intelligence that runs and operates everything, our bodies and the trees and the flowers. So that's one of the things that we're both passionate about, is inviting you to touch this space that's always there, your essential nature, like being home.
Nico, do we have any questions?
No, we don't have any questions in the chat box. There's only one comment from Eric saying that thank you, Deacon and Natasha. Got to go, but can't wait to see you in Finland. So for those who don't know, Eric is one of our speakers as well, flying in from Norway. So I don't know. I take that as a good sign that we don't have any questions, because usually what it means, well, it can mean two things. Either people are in a really good space right now and they just don't have any questions, any kind of intellectual questions, if you may say, or they have some insecure thinking that maybe stopping them. But either way, it's fine. One thing that I kind of wanted to ask is that the sort of relating to the conference and the workshop is that the other day I was having a chat with someone about the conference and about expectations, and we were kind of talking about how, if you come, sometimes when we go to a conference, to an event that we have looked forward for a long time and we are excited about it, we go there and we may have a lot of expectations on our mind as to what we will experience or what we will get out of it. And we're kind of making the point that, you know, having a lot of expectations on your mind may sometimes, you know, stand in the way of hearing something new. And because I know, Deacon, you've obviously been to various conferences and events around this understanding, and I'm curious about what are your thoughts on that?
Well, all true learning is based on a new thought arising within you that creates greater clarity, more perspective, more understanding, a new idea, a fresh perspective, where a fresh perspective just means suddenly you look out at the world and it seems brighter, and it seems easier, or it seems more comfortable to you, or you feel more compassion for someone. That the foundation of true learning is the breakthrough into human consciousness of something new and fresh. Now, one of the things that I learned in the very early days when I started learning these principles was that a lot of the time when I was listening to people talk, I wasn't really listening, even though I thought I was. I was thinking a lot about what they were saying. And I might be thinking about whether I agreed or disagreed. I might be thinking about, I might go off on my own tangent about what they were talking about, or I might even just drift off and start thinking about lunch or something else, something totally unrelated. And I spent a lot of time thinking when I thought I was listening. Now, that didn't change for me until I learned that when you listen, what you're really listening for is something new and fresh that enlivens you or helps you gain greater understanding, to help you enjoy life more, to help you understand something better, to help you feel better. Okay, now here's the thing. While you're thinking, that kind of new, fresh, enlivening thinking doesn't come in. It's just how our minds work. While you're holding on to the old, nothing new can come in. That's a very fundamental spiritual teacher. If you want to get something new, you have to be willing to let go of the old. Right? So once I realized that if I'm listening in any situation, whether it's like this morning, I went for a long walk with my wife, and a state of listening is just being open to something new and fresh and alive coming into you during your walk. That's why people like to go into nature, is that their minds quiet down, and then they start to have all these wonderful feelings of aliveness and connection, and they feel more relaxed and they feel more comfortable. And I didn't know you could listen to anything and anybody that way. All right? Now, the benefit of listening that way is not only does true listening feel good by its nature, but it brings you thinking that's helpful and useful naturally and automatically. And it helps you connect deeper. If you're listening to a person, it helps you connect deeper to them and to what they're trying to say and to their true spirit and their true nature. And so there is no downside to not only listening to people that way, but to learning to listen to anything that way. So what would happen if everybody in the world, when they had a problem, fell into this state of wide open, receptive listening, instead of filling their head up with a lot of old thinking, innocently covering over their capacity for new thinking? What would happen? I started thinking about that. What would happen if every time somebody felt bad, they immediately saw that as a cue to fall open and listen? What would happen to this world? Well, I'll tell you what I think would happen. There'd be a breakthrough of refreshing, new, enlivening, loving, understanding, caring thoughts that would burst forth into the world. Right? And that's how I see families change. That's how I see couples change. That's how I see communities change. It's what Sid Banks would call, you look within, you quiet down, you raise your level of understanding, and you bring more love and understanding into the world. Well, that's an exciting proposition, and it's a very different proposition than I used to operate on, and that many of my clients are operating on. And as they understand deeper the nature of life, they become more interested and compelled in being wide open to this breakthrough event happening through them at any moment. Way more interesting.
Thank you for that. We have a question from Lise. She's asking, everything comes from nothing. Would you please say a little bit about that? I think this was a point that Natasha made.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, everything that we see around us at one point wasn't there. There was everything that, like I said, with music, and I know Lisa as a singer knows the silence that is there before she starts to sing, or before the music starts. So everything that we see around us was at one point not there, and then an idea occurred to someone, and an invention came up. So everything that we see around us at one point didn't exist. Even our thinking, before we had the thought that we have right now, there was nothing. So it's really everything in the world of form wasn't there at some point. Now in businesses, what I help people to do is also to see how, when they have a problem and they sit at a meeting and they start thinking about how can we solve this problem, they automatically get into this space in their heads where new solutions do not come from. And instead, what I do now is, one of the things I encourage them to do is to really listen. So I speak to them about that, as Dicken was just mentioning. Another thing is I often ask the question, where do you get your new ideas from? And people never, ever say, I get them from the times that I'm really thinking about it. Usually people will say, well, I'm in the shower, or when I wake up in the morning early, or when I'm just falling asleep, or when I'm going for a run, or when I'm walking in nature. And often the reason that that's true is it's times when they have nothing on their mind, when there's quiet, when there's silence within them, and from that silence something occurs to them, a fresh thought, a new idea, solutions to problems. It comes from that space. So one of the things that also is important, I know, for both Dicken and I, is to make this very, very ordinary. It's an ordinary process. It happens every single day that we suddenly fall out of our thinking and fall into a silent space, and something comes out of that. Often people are looking for like huge insights, but we have insights every single day. Every single time we find a new way of looking at a problem that we used to have, that we do something that just occurs to us, something that makes sense. It's an insight. It's a fresh idea. It's another way of seeing it. And it comes from nothing. I hope that was an answer for you, Lisa.
Yeah, nothing is just a word.
Yeah.
You could say we're human beings, and being is the part of human beings where things are created. You could call nothing the quantum field. You could call nothing the spiritual dimension of life. You can call nothing the energy that gives rise to all of life. Right? It depends on, I mean, they're just different words and they're all trying to point toward the same thing. Right? They're just trying to point toward that which is doing the creating. Mm. Right? Now, here's the deal. When people look in that direction, toward the silent, creative source of their present moment experience, it's hard to find anything to focus on and think about. So your mind naturally quiets down. And in that quiet, you'll discover what we're talking about is true. You have to see this for yourself, that in that quiet, at some point you start to feel better and you start to get thinking that's helpful to you. It's built into us. It's built into life for new, fresh, and enlivening process to be created when there's an open receptivity to it. You know how they talk about some people are very open-minded and some people are very closed-minded. Well, it's not some people, it's all of us. There are times when all of us are open-minded and there's times when all of us are closed-minded. And it's so ordinary, we don't see all the ordinary times when we're just resting in the present moment. Now, I've never met a human being who I'm with them, and at some point I can observe they're not thinking about things, they're just resting in the present moment. And in those moments, they have greater access to wisdom. They have greater access to new thought, new, fresh, enlivening feeling in that moment. So all of us sometimes are open, and all of us are sometimes closed. And the more you begin to understand the role thought plays, the more you begin to see that a lot of your thinking just closes you to that which is new and fresh and alive, innocently. And you start going, whoa, why am I thinking about this? And why am I still thinking about this? Why am I still, an hour later, still thinking about this? Right? That happened to me this morning on my walk. There was something I started thinking about, and I didn't realize it. And before I knew it, I was in this scenario, and I was starting to feel tense, and then I just saw it. And I said, oh, that's just thought. And I fell into the present moment. Nothing to work on, nothing to fix, nothing wrong, nothing to do. And that thinking fell away. And here I am in this space. Natasha is so beautifully talking about this space of openness, of silence, of presence. And that's where we discover what we're looking for. That's it. That's what everybody's looking for, but nobody's looking in that direction. You can't think your way into that space. And it's right there under our nose. Right there, home base.
So on a very practical level, it's, for instance, if all of us have gone through times in our lives where we've maybe gone through a period of grief or anxiety or something, and we're struggling with that, and to wake up and see that it's my thinking. If I'm continuously thinking about something that's frightening me, I will start to feel anxious. If I continually think about the future and what might happen, that will constantly create a sense of anxious feelings, or maybe grief about maybe a loss. And what it is that both Dicken and I, and also the other speakers at the conference, will be pointing towards is that when you start waking up to that it's thought that's creating these emotions in us, when you see that, it automatically throws us into the now. And in the now, we are then filled up with fresh thinking, with love, with compassion for ourselves, for others, a deep sense of connection, and it really comes from from seeing what thought is. So instead of getting involved in all this thinking about it, it's seeing that thought is arising from nothing, that it truly is a fundamental principle that's true for all of us. So that there's so much hope on a practical level for people to relieve suffering by waking up and seeing the fundamental principles that is living each and every one of us all of the time.
Now the conference is Saturday and Sunday. And in the conference you have plenty of opportunity to hear people tell their own stories and give examples and tell stories of the power of thought to create experience, and how waking up to that truth, that fact, helps anybody who realizes that or sees that more deeply. And so you have plenty of opportunity to reflect on this and to see it for yourself, because it's not until you see it for yourself that it really comes alive. And then you can't help, you see it everywhere. You see people thinking up their experience everywhere you go. Everybody. And you see how innocently people close their minds down at a time when they are looking for the benefits that can only come when their minds are open. You'll see that everywhere you look. And you'll see it in yourself, and you see it in your friends, and that's the birth of compassion. You begin to say, oh, well, right at this moment, they're doing the best they can, given their mind is closed, and they're looking for what can only come when it's opened. My heart goes out to them. I do that. I did that this morning, right? So you'll have 2 days to really hear a lot of very wonderful speakers talk about these principles and their relevance to each of you. And then on Monday, we had the idea, wouldn't it be wonderful to offer something for anyone who would like to go into even more depth, discover even more deeply for yourself your own built-in capacity for well-being, and discover what it takes to really begin to move in a direction in your life where you have more and more of that well-being available to you. And so we're going to spend a whole day. Natasha and I are very excited about spending a day with people and answering questions that inevitably will come up for people during the conference, and to share with you more about what direction is helpful to look in to begin to realize for yourself your own well-being, so that you too can bring more of that love and understanding into the world. So that's Monday. That's what we're going to do Monday, and those kind of gatherings tend to be really fun and lighthearted, and people inevitably walk away hearing something new and fresh that's helpful to them in their life. So we invite as many of you as are able to make it to that Monday seminar to join us. Join us. We'd love to have you there and bring your own curiosity and questions to the. It's a come as you are party. So we welcome everybody.
Yes, hope to see you there.
Yeah. Thank you for those. And I just want to say a few things about the sort of logistical side of things. If you haven't already, booked your tickets to this event and something you decided that yes, this is definitely for me and I want to join in, you can go to the our website. I'm actually going to load something to the chat box right now. So I'm going to talk about what that offer is in a bit. So you can go to our website www.unlimited2015.com and find all the information about the other speakers, the event from there, and the venue as well. And you can book your tickets from there. And also, several people contacted us during the summer, when they heard about this conference and said, they really like to join, but it's just not possible for them to travel to Finland. And they asked if this event will be live streamed, so people can watch it wherever they are. And after doing some research and putting some thought on it, we decided that yes, we will live stream the event as well. So people from all over the world can participate in virtually to this event. And so if you click on the link where it says click here, takes you to the Unlimited website, and there you find the options for the live streaming, if this is something that you find interesting. So yeah, check that out, and yeah, we really, I don't know, I really hope to see many of you there, and I know there's some people who've been watching these webinars and sending messages, and I really look forward to meeting every one of you there. And also, if you don't make it there, but you are one of those who watch it on the live streaming, you still, we're gonna take care of you as well, and take you in this opportunity to ask questions during the event, and then someone will read them out, so you can also, there's a chance to participate. So yeah, that's that. Any concluding words?
Just look forward to meeting everybody at the conference, and hopefully many people at the workshop. It's going to be a wonderful opportunity for you to deepen your understanding of the principles, and if you're brand new, it's a great opportunity to hear what it is that we're all so passionate about. So hope to see you.
I can't wait to come. I'm very excited, and these conferences are always wonderful affairs, and everyone walks away feeling welcomed and enriched during the conference. So it's very powerful if you're able to make it in person. Understandable if you can't, but if you're able to, it's really something. It can be life-changing. So, alrighty, well, look forward to seeing you in Finland.
Yeah, thank you, Deacon, and thank you, Natasha, for taking the time to do this webinar. It was great. I really enjoyed listening to you, and personally, I can't wait for the conference, and I can't wait for the Monday workshop where I get to just. I'm not in charge of the of that workshop, so I can just relax a bit and just like.
Good. Yeah, you'll be ready for it by then. To just sit back and relax, and I appreciate all you're doing to get this conference pulled together.
Yeah,
thank you, and thank you everyone for listening.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. Goodbye.
Bye bye.
Bye.